That's who I am. I'm loyal. Like, if you're honest with me, it doesn't matter. I will love you. I will stand up for you till the end.
Well, that loyalty clearly didn't include her own father. New footage just leaked of Brooke Hogan at a party with The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar, two of Hulk's biggest enemies. Now people are talking. Some say it's why she got cut out of the will. Others think it's what finally broke the Hogan family for good. Let's break it all down. When family drama gets nuclear. So Brooke Hogan was out with the enemy, and the internet isn't letting it slide. New footage shows her hanging out with two of Hulk's biggest rivals. And yeah, it's caught people off guard. Brooke wasn't just some wrestling kid. She was the wrestling kid. Her whole life played out on camera, thanks to Hogan Knows Best, where she was shown growing up as the daughter of the man who practically defined wrestling greatness. So seeing her now with the same guys who clashed with her dad, that's wild. But that picture-perfect image, it was covering up some seriously dark secrets. Behind the scenes, the Hogan empire was crumbling. What looked like a fairy tale family on TV eventually spiraled into one of the most jaw-dropping scandals in entertainment history. It all came crashing down with the infamous 2006 sex tape, which leaked years later in 2012 and led to a $31 million lawsuit win against Gawker. And believe it or not, that was just the beginning of the chaos. The real nuclear bomb dropped in 2015 when transcripts from that sex tape revealed something that would make your jaw drop to the floor and stay there. Hulk Hogan, the man who built his entire career on being America's hero, was caught on tape making racist comments specifically about his own daughter. And I'm not talking about some mild, inappropriate comments. We're talking about full-blown, career-ending, relationship-destroying racist rants. The transcripts revealed Hogan saying about Brooke dating a black man. Let that sink in for a moment. This man was literally discussing his own daughter's romantic life using racial slurs that would make your grandparents from the 1950s cringe. But wait, it gets even more disturbing because he also admitted, "I am a racist to a point." The immediate fallout was swift and brutal. WE fired him faster than you could say, "What you gonna do, brother?" and removed him from their Hall of Fame like he never existed. Now here's where Brooke's story becomes both heartbreaking and incredibly complex. Instead of immediately throwing her father under the bus like literally any rational person would do, she initially defended him. And we actually have footage of her talking about this impossible situation.
It's hard. And everybody was like, oh, Brooke stands by her dad and this and that. And it's like, first of all, that's who I am. I'm loyal. Like, if you're honest with me, it doesn't matter. I will love you. I will stand up for you till the end.
Can you imagine being in that position? Your own father is caught on tape making racist comments about your romantic choices, and you're still trying to protect him because, at the end of the day, he's still your dad. But the damage was already done, and it went way deeper than just public embarrassment. The scandal reportedly ruined Brooke's relationship with a black producer, effectively ending her music career push. The psychological impact of this situation cannot be overstated. Imagine trying to navigate your early 20s, figure out your identity, build your own career, and maintain relationships while your father's racist comments about your love life are plastered across every entertainment news outlet in the world. Listen to how she tried to rationalize this impossible situation.
I love that quote that says, like, don't judge somebody on the decisions that they made when you don't know the options they had to choose from, or that you don't know the mind space or the marriage or the job or whatever they were in. It's hard to say, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. I would never do that. It's like, you don't know if you are under a certain amount of stress or if there's certain temptations or things like that.
But wait, because somehow this story manages to get even more disturbing. We need to talk about some behavior from Hulk that, frankly, made people very uncomfortable long before the racist scandal broke. In 2013, Hogan posted photos of Brooke's legs on social media, calling them 100% perfect, and paparazzi captured him applying sunscreen to her buttocks while they were sunbathing. The internet immediately started making accusations about inappropriate behavior. And honestly, can you blame them? This wasn't just a one-time weird social media moment either. The pattern of behavior suggested something much more concerning about the family dynamics behind closed doors. When you combine this with everything else we know about Hulk's behavior, it starts painting a picture of a man who had serious boundary issues when it came to his own family. Now let's fast forward to where this story gets even more devastating. Despite initially defending her father through the 2015 scandal, Brooke's relationship with both of her parents began to deteriorate significantly over the following years. In September 2023, 2023, she made the decision to completely cut off contact with Hulk, citing his toxic circle and declining health. In what can only be described as a nuclear family destruction event, Brooke accused both of her parents of verbal, mental, and physical abuse that had been going on since she was a child. We're talking about allegations that go way beyond typical family dysfunction. This is serious abuse being alleged by someone who had previously been defending her parents in public for years. The extent of this family breakdown is honestly staggering. Hulk never met Brooke's children, his own grandchildren, and she skipped his 2023 wedding to Sky Daily. Can you imagine the level of pain and betrayal that would lead someone to not only cut off their parents, but to actively keep their children away from their grandparents? The situation became even more dramatic when Brooke requested to be removed from Hulk's will before his death, ultimately receiving nothing from his estate. Think about that for a moment. She literally chose to walk away from what was presumably a substantial inheritance rather than maintain any connection to her father. When we look at this from a broader cultural perspective, Brooke's story represents even Hulk himself seemed to recognize the depth of the damage he had caused.
Yeah, and if anybody should have disowned me, it should have been her. You know, she should have been the one. She should have been the one to throw me out like the trash, but instead she showed me more love than anybody.
When Hulk died on July 24th, 2025, Brooke's response was measured but powerful, expressing gratitude for knowing the real version of him beyond his public persona. Now that we understand the toxic family dynamics that were brewing behind the scenes, we need to talk about how Hulk's pattern of manipulation and dishonesty wasn't limited to his personal life. This behavior was absolutely destroying his professional relationships too, and nowhere is this more evident than in his legendary beef with The Undertaker, a grudge that's been simmering for over 30 years and perfectly illustrates how Hulk's selfishness affected everyone around him. The Undertaker's legendary grudge. The foundation of this drama was laid back in 1991, when The Undertaker was just 26 years old and representing everything that wrestling could become: athletic, mysterious, and genuinely compelling in a way that transcended typical sports entertainment. Meanwhile, Hulk Hogan was the established king who had built his empire on a very specific formula of patriotic heroism and crowd manipulation. The generational clash was inevitable, but what happened next would define their relationship forever. At Survivor Series 1991, these two forces collided in what should have been a passing of the torch moment. The Undertaker defeated Hogan with a tombstone piledriver to win his first WWF championship, and for a brief moment, it seemed like the wrestling world was evolving exactly as it should. But then Hulk's true character emerged in the most manipulative way possible. Here's The Undertaker himself, explaining what went down in that crucial moment.
Oh, brother, you got me. I'm like, I just crippled the golden goose. I just hurt Hogan.
Immediately after the move, Hogan claimed that Undertaker had severely injured his neck, dramatizing the injury backstage to an almost theatrical degree. This wasn't just a minor complaint. This was a full-scale manipulation campaign designed to undermine The Undertaker's biggest career moment. Imagine being 26 years old, achieving your dream, and then having the biggest star in the company claim you nearly ended his career. The psychological warfare was devastatingly effective. Undertaker has described feeling devastated and guilty, genuinely fearing that he might lose his job. But here's where this story transforms from unfortunate accident to calculated deception that would make you lose faith in humanity.
It took a few days before I actually got to see the footage. His head never touched.
That's right. After reviewing the match footage, it became crystal clear that Hogan's head never actually touched the mat. The tombstone piledriver had been executed flawlessly, with perfect safety measures in place. Hulk Hogan had fabricated the entire injury story to manipulate the situation and protect his own position. The immediate consequences were devastating. Just 6 days after winning the championship, The Undertaker lost the title back to Hogan at Tuesday in Texas. 6 days. The Undertaker's first major championship reign lasted less than a week because Hogan manufactured a fake injury to justify getting his title back immediately. This wasn't just about a championship. This was about a pattern of behavior that would define Hulk's entire approach to the wrestling business. Just like how he was creating toxic family dynamics at home with the inappropriate behavior toward Brooke and the racist comments, he was using manipulation and lies to control his professional environment too. The Undertaker realized he was dealing with someone who would destroy other people's opportunities without hesitation if it served his own interests. Fast forward to 2002, when their paths crossed again during Hogan's WWE return. By this time, the power dynamics had completely shifted. The Undertaker was no longer the young, impressionable wrestler who could be manipulated. He was a seasoned veteran with serious political power of his own. During their feud that year, Undertaker ultimately defeated Hogan at Judgment Day 2002 to claim the undisputed championship. Many fans saw this as symbolic payback for what happened in 1991, but the most revealing moment came decades later, in 2025, when we got to see The Undertaker's unfiltered thoughts about Hogan's legacy. During a podcast discussion about Hogan being booed during WWE Raw's Netflix premiere, The Undertaker's response was absolutely brutal in its honesty.
Sometimes in life, things come back.
All the podcasts and all the books and everything, and everybody realizes that Hogan wasn't the guy that he was portrayed to be.
This statement hits different when you understand the full context. The Undertaker wasn't just talking about the 2015 racism scandal. He was referencing decades of behavior that included the family dysfunction we discussed earlier, the professional manipulation, and a pattern of putting himself above everyone else regardless of the consequences. Even when acknowledging Hogan's historical importance, The Undertaker's reluctance was palpable.
No, he's a Mount Rushmore guy.
Yeah, he's a Mount Rushmore guy. You've put him on your Mount Rushmore, even with the beef that y'all have had.
The way he said this, the tone, the repetition, the direct acknowledgement of the beef revealed someone who recognized Hogan's impact while still harboring serious resentment about being manipulated at the most crucial moment of his early career. When Hogan died, The Undertaker posted a professional tribute, but even in death, the statement felt measured rather than genuinely warm. It was the response of someone who understood the business obligation while maintaining personal boundaries that had been established decades earlier. This dynamic between Hogan and The Undertaker perfectly illustrates how toxic behavior creates lasting consequences. Just like how Hogan's racism and inappropriate behavior destroyed his relationship with Brooke, his professional manipulation created a grudge that lasted an entire career. But The Undertaker's story also shows something important: how to maintain your integrity while dealing with toxic people, and how to eventually gain enough power to ensure that kind of manipulation can't happen again. But if you think The Undertaker's measured, professional approach to dealing with Hogan was intense, wait until you see how a certain beast incarnate decided to handle the situation with absolutely zero diplomatic filter. Brock Lesnar's savage destruction. After understanding how Hulk's toxic behavior destroyed his family relationships and created decades-long professional grudges, we need to talk about what happened when someone with absolutely zero tolerance for manipulation and politics entered the picture. And that someone is Brock Lesnar, a man who represents everything that Hulk Hogan's era of wrestling was not: authentic, legitimately dangerous, and completely uninterested in playing political games. The beautiful thing about Brock Lesnar's approach to dealing with Hulk Hogan is how it perfectly contrasts with The Undertaker's measured, long-term grudge. Where The Undertaker maintained professional courtesy while harboring resentment, Lesnar decided to just psychologically demolish Hogan in the most public, humiliating ways possible. And honestly, it was absolutely glorious to watch. Let's start with the foundation of pure dominance that Brock built when he first encountered Hogan back in 2002. Picture this: Lesnar had just debuted as the next big thing, a legitimate amateur wrestling champion and genetic freak who looked like he was built in a laboratory specifically to destroy other human beings. Meanwhile, Hogan was riding a nostalgia wave after his return to WWE, trying to recapture some of that old Hulkamania magic. Their feud built through several SmackDown episodes, with Lesnar targeting Hogan as a way to establish his dominance over the older generation. But the match itself, which took place on August 8, 2002, was less about competition and more about complete and total annihilation. Lesnar won decisively with a bear hug submission, followed by a post-match attack, using a steel chair that left Hogan bloodied and injured. This wasn't just a passing of the torch. This was Lesnar literally beating the torch out of Hogan's hands and then using it to set fire to the entire concept of respecting your elders in professional wrestling. The message was crystal clear. The era of guys like Hogan was over, and the Brock Lesnar era had officially begun. But here's where things get absolutely legendary. And I mean legendary in the most disrespectful, career-defining way possible. Fast forward to August 14th, 2014, and we have what might be the single most savage moment in modern WWE history. Hogan was celebrating his his 61st birthday on Monday Night Raw, surrounded by wrestling legends, probably feeling pretty good about his legacy and his place in wrestling history. Then Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman decided to absolutely obliterate that entire vibe with one of the most disrespectful interruptions in wrestling history, and we have the exact moment captured forever.
Party's over, Grandpa.
3 words. 3 words. That completely destroyed a 61-year-old man's birthday celebration on live television in front of millions of people. This moment was reportedly unscripted and allegedly left Hogan genuinely furious, to the point where John Cena had to intervene backstage to prevent things from escalating. Further, the beauty of this moment isn't just in its savage delivery, it's in how perfectly it encapsulated everything that Brock Lesnar represents in professional wrestling. He doesn't care about your legacy, your history, your feelings, or your birthday party. If you're standing in his way, he's going to demolish you with the kind of cold, calculated brutality that makes grown men question their life choices. What makes this even more incredible is the context of what Lesnar had already accomplished by 2014. This wasn't some young upstart trying to make a name for himself. This was a man who had already conquered WWE, left to become UFC heavyweight champion, and returned as an even more terrifying version of himself. When he called Hogan Grandpa, he wasn't just being disrespectful. He was stating a biological fact about the generational gap between them. The incident allegedly upset Hogan so much that he later threatened Lesnar in an interview, saying, "All I gotta say is, Brock, I haven't done anything to get in your way, but if you keep throwing my name around, I'm gonna get in your way. You can't say that stuff like you said, Brock, in front of my wife and kids." The fact that a grown man felt the need to publicly threaten Brock Lesnar over being called Grandpa just proves how effective the psychological warfare was. But Lesnar's dominance wasn't limited to just destroying Hogan's birthday party. His relationship with The Undertaker created some of the most legendary moments in wrestling history. And I'm not just talking about their matches. I'm talking about the kind of real-life tension that makes wrestling infinitely more interesting than any scripted drama. Their early encounters in 2002 to 2003 established Lesnar as one of the few wrestlers who could legitimately hang with The Undertaker in terms of pure physicality and intimidation factor. At Unforgiven 2002, they battled for the WWE Championship in a match that ended in double disqualification, setting up a brutal Hell in a Cell match at No Mercy 2002, where Lesnar defeated Undertaker to retain the title. But the most incredible part of their relationship happened outside the ring in 2010, during Lesnar's UFC career. At UFC 121, shortly after Lesnar lost his heavyweight title to Cain Velasquez, The Undertaker, who was attending as a fan, confronted him cage-side, asking, "You want to do it?" on camera. This wasn't scripted WWE drama. This was real-life tension playing out in front of a legitimate MMA audience. The psychological implications of this moment are absolutely fascinating. Here's The Undertaker, a wrestling legend, challenging Brock Lesnar to a fight in the middle of a UFC event right after Lesnar had just lost his championship. It was either the most perfectly timed psychological warfare or genuine heat boiling over in public. The Undertaker later clarified that it was a mix of genuine curiosity about a potential MMA crossover and playful ribbing, emphasizing their friendship and calling Lesnar one of the good ones. But the fact remains that these two alpha males had enough tension between them that it spilled over into real life in a very public way. Then came WrestleMania 30 in 2014, and one of the most shocking moments in wrestling history. In a last-minute decision by Vince McMahon, Lesnar defeated The Undertaker with 3 F5S, ending his legendary 21-0 undefeated streak at WrestleMania. The crowd's reaction was pure disbelief, thousands of people sitting in stunned silence as they watched something they never thought they would see. The streak ending wasn't just a wrestling moment, it was a cultural moment that transcended sports entertainment. It proved that Brock Lesnar was operating on a different level than everyone else, that he could accomplish things that seemed impossible. When you can beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, what can't you do? But here's what makes Brock Lesnar truly fascinating in the context of this entire story. He's managed to maintain respect and friendship with The Undertaker while simultaneously having zero tolerance for Hogan's behavior. The Undertaker has repeatedly described Lesnar as a close friend, praising his work ethic, family values, and authenticity. This isn't just professional courtesy. This is genuine mutual respect between two legitimate tough guys. Meanwhile, Lesnar has been brutally honest about why wrestlers harbor resentment toward Hogan. He's publicly explained Hogan's backstage politics, refusal to lose cleanly, openly and betrayal of unionization efforts, contrasting this with wrestling's tradition of veterans elevating new talent. When Brock Lesnar calls you out for not helping younger wrestlers, that's not just criticism. That's a legitimate character assassination from someone whose opinion actually matters. The contrast is absolutely perfect. Lesnar respects The Undertaker because Undertaker earned that respect through decades of consistent behavior, helping younger wrestlers, and maintaining his integrity even when it wasn't convenient. He has zero respect for Hogan because Hogan represents everything wrong with the old-school wrestling mentality of protecting your own position at everyone else's expense. What makes this even more incredible is how Lesnar has continued to expose Hogan's tendency toward exaggeration and lies. Hogan has repeatedly claimed that he wrestled Lesnar 10 or 12 times and helped mentor him, even falsely stating he was Lesnar's first WWE opponent after his UFC return in 2012. It was actually John Cena at Extreme Rules 2012. Wrestling databases confirm they only had 2 official matches, making Hogan's claims completely fabricated. When Hogan died on July 24, 2025, Lesnar made a shocking return to WWE SmackDown to pay tribute, delivering what was described as a heartfelt message expressing shock at Hogan's passing. Even in death, Lesnar maintained his professionalism, but the tribute felt more obligatory than genuinely emotional. The beautiful thing about Brock Lesnar's role in this entire saga is how he represents the evolution of professional wrestling, from the political, ego-driven era that Hogan embodied to a more performance-based, legitimate competition mindset. He destroyed Hogan physically and psychologically, while maintaining genuine friendships with wrestlers like The Undertaker, who earned his respect through their actions rather than their political maneuvering. Lesnar's "Party's over, Grandpa" moment wasn't just a great insult. It was a symbolic declaration that the era of guys like Hogan manipulating situations for their own benefit was officially finished. The new generation of wrestlers, led by legitimate athletes like Lesnar, were going to succeed based on their actual abilities rather than their backstage politics. And that, my friends, is how you create a legacy that transcends wrestling, by being authentic, respecting those who deserve it, destroying those who don't, and delivering one-liners so savage that they become part of wrestling folklore forever. Thanks for watching. Check out our other thrilling content by clicking on your screen.